Okay.
Any ideas on what Belvin's doing right now?
He's organizing a strike on the United Nations.
Oh, really? That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I had been told that he had to be like the dragon for a child, like a friendly dragon in a never-ending story type adventure, which, is a good excuse to, let him off the hook.
Yeah, he does that every night with your son through the window.
Is he partnering with Make-A-Wish Foundation or something?
They get a lot of kids. Never-ending stories making a comeback. They get a lot of kids who want that experience. Since obviously dragons aren't real, but people who are enthusiastic about kids are real. They just have people act as the friendly dragon. Doesn't he die in that movie?
I'm pretty sure he does die in that movie, but they keep making more of them, and he's just there every time for some reason.
No, but doesn't he die in a swamp pit or something?
I remember it being horrifying.
I don't know. I started with the 7th one.
He
never made any sense.
Wait, there's 7 of those? Holy shit.
I'm pretty sure there's 6 or 7.
What do you think never-ending story means?
To our
never-ending
listeners,
story means the same story 100 times.
To our listeners who are listening to this in 1984, once we broadcast it back through time after Congress deemed this podcast of irreplaceable national importance, we're sorry to have spoiled the never-ending story for you and that particular plot hook. You're also probably wondering, will there be nuclear war? Well, I got news for you. You're A-okay on that.
For a while.
Yeah.
Don't
Don't at least
tell them
for 50 years, maybe 40.
Don't tell them about the 2003 death war for Giga Oil.
Hyper oil?
Hyper Giga Oil.
The Neo-Petrolean Empire.
It's a commodity that only can be found within the collapsed Soviet Union. Actually, forget I said that too. People listening. We just dropped a lot.
Spoiling the Cold War.
Oil is to us today what hairspray is to you now.
Yeah, it's worthless. Yeah, it's
you have too much of it.
We're all hyper oil now. Shit, dude, I'd be about that hyper oil though.
Yeah, the oil, it's got LED lights in it for some reason, and it's purple. It's gross shit, man. You wouldn't want to touch hyper oil.
It gets you high when you fuel up your car.
It's hardcore to the mega, and that's bad.
It can replace human connection, the psychological need for it. So you don't need anyone ever again. You just need the oil.
It just directly stimulates your dopamine receptors.
You've really got to stop huffing gasoline. I know it's cheap. You have lots of it in DC. Stop doing it. It's bad for you.
It's just the oil loves me. But welcome to 30-Minute Worlds, the podcast where we build a fantasy setting in 30 minutes or less. Belvin is absent. The absentee Belvin is a trope that we kind of seem to be falling back into as his work heats up yet again.
Yeah, we haven't had a storyline with an absent Belvin, appearance recently.
Yeah, so how do we, when there's 3 of us, who's Lore Lad again?
Well, it was a rotational thing before.
Let's roll a D3. How about that? Because Belvin was 4 on the D4 anyway.
But we'll all be contributing a word.
Right, and one of us... Okay, that makes sense. Listeners, we definitely have this all figured out. So it's not something we do completely ad hoc. 1, that is Chessman. Chessman, you're the Lord.
Again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oops, all Chessmans.
Whoops.
I think the dice heard you 2 episodes ago.
Yeah, they were like, we'll give him unlimited
We're stuck
power.
on 1s now.
The Lore Lad also has the privilege of coming up with their prompt last, so they can pick their prompt in response to other prompts. Dan, do you have a prompt?
My prompt is Odyssey.
Odyssey?
A great journey.
My prompt is oil.
It's not car radio? You're sure it's not car radio?
It's not car radio.
This might result... We have to be careful about a car setting. I didn't consider this. I was just doing it based on the previous
The Odyssey, but with cars? That'd be pretty good.
We can't... We are creatively bankrupt if we do that.
So what were they again? That was...
Odyssey, and oil.
Okay.
Where'd you pull that one out from, Walt?
I just was going, I'll just do the riff. And then it's going to be another car setting, our 12th one.
You can do boats. We've only done that like 5 times.
I mean, oil's just naturally going to lean into something, but I don't want to do. But I'm going to do Discovery.
Okay. Odyssey and Discovery kind of go together, and oil. I think it'd be cool if the oil. Let's veer away from vehicles and think about what other uses for oil there are.
Lubricant.
You can light street lamps with it.
Yeah, no, that one. That one's a better first one.
Could we do whale? No, we're not doing ships. Discovery.
You can do whales. You can do whales without ships. You can do land whales.
I thought about a planet whose surface was composed entirely of oil.
Sounds.
Oh, I thought you were going to say whales.
Inhospitable.
That was about to be
inhospitable.
Okay.
Right. What do you guys think about that?
I don't get how. I mean, I would.
It's honestly,
how that works.
It's not even that fantastic, honestly. It's like there's planets that are composed of all kinds of exotic materials.
Right. Theoretically.
The thing with
You're
oil,
the accredited scientist here.
It would be hard to imagine what life would be like that originated on an oil-based planet.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe it's a far-flung colony of, let's say, a more familiar race's expansion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say space dwarves.
Okay.
Squats.
Space dwarves.
We could go squats with it.
Is squats a thing?
Let's not. We're gonna have to cut 90 minutes podcast.
It's a 40K thing. It's not important.
Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's space dwarves. Anyway.
It's space dwarves. Okay.
So the space dwarves have discovered Oil World, starring Kevin Costner, but he's a dwarf. Same thing. And they have to make routine trips to it. The oil itself, obviously, you can use it for all sorts of machines, make gas from it, etc.
Would it be cool if they originally came here, but then, like, say, the empire they were part of collapsed, and they're more of like an abandoned world that's relying on dying technology?
Yeah, that's cool.
And they have all this oil, but ironically, they can't use it to power a lot of their vehicles.
So what if they escaped when their like home world fell apart, and they did almost like a blind jump, or just like they set out in a random direction and they found this planet?
Oh, that'd be
know
cool.
About before.
Yeah, or what if it was like kind of like a Puritan thing where they had a weird belief and they were exiles from society on this like inhospitable planet?
Yeah, like they got cast out, but now they've made their way here and they've found this incredibly valuable, like they just at the end of their Odyssey, I guess, found this planet.
Right.
Well, is this the end of their Odyssey? Are they trying to go back for some reason? Because like it is a very inhospitable planet in probably a very inhospitable system, and they're alone. I'm just trying to imagine, like, you have all the oil in the world, and what are you trying to do with it?
Well, let's establish who they are. And I think the planet is very explorable, because let's say there's like some sort of cataclysm where their technology stops working. That would mean it would be impossible to map this planet digitally, right?
Well, I mean, just probably the fact that it's entirely made out of oil would make it pretty hard to map, because like most of it would be under the oil surface,
there
right?
would be islets, and it would have a mantle and a crust, but
yeah, it's like a landscape of like obsidian, like frozen, like not frozen,
fuck, dude.
But like
and there's go on.
Yeah, like a jagged landscape of like broken like crust, oil crust.
Oh,
but, like it's still liquid beneath it, where it's warmer, but on the outside.
there are like tar islands that slowly drift together and break apart because the surface of the planet is moving slowly. It's like a goo.
Yeah.
So if it's like solid at the surface, that must mean it's very cold.
The star maybe is distant, or the atmosphere is just thinner, so it's not as... Or, well,
I like it being cold, actually, because this differentiates it from Volcano World, too.
Yeah. Well, you could still have a volcano.
And you could still have incredible heat.
Terrifying volcano.
Right. You could still have incredible heat from the planet's core that causes more oil to bubble up.
Yeah.
Maybe the equator is more like viscous, like what you're envisioning. But like as you get further away, it gets more frozen.
And that means there's a belt of sort of constantly changing land on near the equator, let's say.
Yeah.
The really scary thing about if you did have magma or you were exposed to this like the liquid oil, not the crust or anything, is like magma and lava is it's kind of behaves like a fluid, but it's really very solid. Like if you were to like jump onto lava and then jump off, you might just burn the bottom of your shoes. But oil, if it's hot enough to be liquid, you will sink into it.
Right. Which makes navigation and travel very dangerous, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically,
luckily, it's very dense, so you could make pretty easily make vehicles that could go over the liquid surface.
Speedboats.
So the colonies, let's say that they arrived as part of like a unified religious group, which if we take Odyssey into this makes sense because if we want to go kind of cliche with it, dwarves traditionally are sort of stoic traditionalists and don't value exploration as much, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So these people who wanted to explore space and who had a credo or code regarding that and identifying it as good, they would be kind of outcasts.
Yeah, because they want to leave home. They want to split up like families and stuff.
They don't want to defend in this like war or something that's going on. They don't want to like man the front lines. You know, they want to actually explore new parts of space. They don't care about the war, really.
And you can't have that. You people need to go.
Right. If they don't want to man the dwarven star fortresses, then they have to leave, essentially. And so there was a purge from this, like, a collection of states or this empire or whatever, this greater state. And then, probably as a result of this war, which would be kind of a distant phenomenon, technology would collapse.
It's sort of ironic that, like, these people wanted to explore the galaxy, and so they were cast out to explore the galaxy.
Yeah, so do you expect it to be like, I guess this is a question of intent, were they intentionally exiled, or did they flee in order to achieve their goals?
That actually should be up to Chessman. You are the lore lad, after all.
I mean, it's a much more, like, political sort of story that they were just like essentially given a choice, either kowtow or, you know, go explore and never come back. Which, I mean, like maybe they were put to it. Maybe like they were rounded up and put to this. A lot of people are rounded up, like ended up changing their support just to be able to stay home, and then everyone else, like the leaders and everything, were either killed or jettisoned into space. Not jettisoned into space. You're on a spacecraft. But yeah,
right.
Yeah,
right.
It could be like we don't want you to convert more people to your ideology, so we're gonna kill who we can, and if you escape, then we don't want to have to fight a war against ourselves right now at the same time.
Because they're already fighting in a war against an unknown enemy, let's say, or one whose technology eclipsed theirs and was able to kind of singularity them somehow.
Yeah, I don't think the specifics of it matter too much.
Right, because the people on the oil planet wouldn't care really either what happened.
So but what they get now is after they've been on this oil planet for a while, they start to get like refugees essentially. From the war.
Yeah, and
who
it's like
had heard about this. Yeah,
the like social tension of like, well, you kicked us out. Like, do we take you in, or like, are you going to accept this is the way things are now?
Well, that would only really come up for like officials, right? Because the average person,
if we want to keep like
is,
technology kind of lower scale, let's say something about the planet. Maybe it's like ion fields. Maybe it's a way heavier gravity. Prevents spacecraft as they're currently like designed from being able to leave, essentially.
Oh no, you don't need any of that. It's oil. It's an oil fucking planet.
That's true, actually. Yeah, it's just
if you ignite engines in this atmosphere, you are gambling with everyone's lives.
That's true. That's true.
Like what you need for combustion, if these are combustion engines, let's say, or even if they're ion engines, it would be a spark. If you have, it's an oil planet, it probably isn't that much. If they're like oxygen breathing,
they would have a big gas
people.
mask culture, essentially.
And there wouldn't be oxygen on the planet, so that much oxygen, so it actually wouldn't ignite the whole planet if you had a spark. But in an area with a lot of dwarves, there could be enough ambient oxygen just leaking out over time to like, and especially if they were trying to terraform it, it would slowly, like, oxygen would be way richer than it needs to be to cause like a fire to start.
Let's talk about
it would be an explosion.
Let's talk about the culture here of this planet and how people live. Obviously, the majority of it is unexplored. They've been on it. Let's call the planet like Varn or something. I don't know, something sci-fi like that.
Something dwarfy and sci-fi. Okay.
Right.
McVarn.
What parts of it are... Because the poles are relatively solid, we'd established, right?
I would
because
assume
of the cold.
the North and South poles.
So it's stable there and you can live there, but it's cold.
Yeah, absurdly cold, actually.
Right. And then the belt, due to rifts in the earth, kind of around the center, is a mass of constantly floating islands in a sort of shimmering tar ocean.
Yeah, like an asteroid field that's around the equator almost. Like,
how would you build in such a... Oh, plastics. They would have a lot of plastics.
Yeah.
I would assume it's mostly like fabrication. That maybe they don't even really understand too well how it works, but they do have these fabricators still on their ships.
Right.
Which can't really go anywhere.
And if they're powered by, if you need oil to produce plastics, well, that's like the only thing you have in abundance on this planet.
Petroleum-based housing.
What you need, though, is you at least need oxygen.
They would have oxygen in minimal amounts, but enough to collect, not enough to breathe, but enough that a machine could collect it. I think that's essential. But let's not delve too deep into how the science of this works.
Well, just 1 second, because it actually is. If it literally, I didn't know you guys were actually talking about literal oil, like dead dinosaurs. I don't know how there's a whole dead dinosaur planet, but that's very spooky. But like organic chemicals are composed of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So if you have carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, you can basically do whatever the hell you want. So all they'd have to do is have some way to break down these chemicals, and they could make anything.
I think that a lot of their tech, though, is either too dangerous to use on the planet itself without igniting catastrophic explosions, right?
What if they have a fabricator system, right? But there are like recipes in it, but most of it is gated by like manufacturer protections.
Oh shit, that's really cool.
And nobody knows the codes anymore. Like,
that's a really cool idea.
So like, and there's a tension too there, because if refugees did happen to come in and they might know something useful, or like maybe there's dwarves like their whole fucking job is they just data crunch to try and break these codes manually.
Oh shit,
fucking borderline impossible.
You know what? There's an ancient myth that because there were like 3 ships that originally came to the planet, but one of them went down over the pole, essentially. its engine gave out due to the pressure from the planet's atmosphere. And there was a myth that it scattered all these fab keys all over. And so they go on expeditions to find these lost data keys in hopes of unlocking more uses for the fabricators that power, like, let's say, 2 fab cities that might exist here, or fabrication cities.
Yeah, no, I like the 3 ships. What if 2, like, it didn't crash in one piece? Like, it broke up in the atmosphere?
So people have brought back things like, this is a fab key. Like, we know what it is. I like also the places where the 2 ships land becoming 2 rival city-states.
Well, they're competing for like, if someone else gets a key and they don't have that, they want to interact because they don't each have the ability to fabricate everything that they want.
Right, there would be incentive for trade.
But they really want to kill them all and just have all the fab keys in one place. That would be good.
Yeah. Like they need each other to survive, but they would like to be in charge if they can.
And so there's all this intrigue because let's say like one state makes the filters for the gas masks that keep people alive, right? And the other state makes parts for the fabricator that the other fabricator doesn't have the keys to make. So it's like a whole crazy situation where they do have distinct cultures from one another, but they need each other to survive, but they do have a rivalry, and they use, instead of like open war, which would be disastrous, because imagine if like a fabricator were damaged in war, it could mean the wipe out of the species.
Oh, and imagine if you use, like, there was too much oxygen in an area because everyone's fighting there, and then something ignites it all.
Oh God, yeah. Their entire weaponry would have to be non-combustion based.
Yeah, you can't
because
use
it's too unpredictable.
Like that. Yeah. What if
you probably have to use you probably wouldn't even want to use guns because
you definitely wouldn't want to use guns on the oil plant.
Well, any kind of gun, like mass projection device or like energy projection device at all, you would probably want to use like non-sparking metals or just plastic swords.
3D printed weapons.
Dude, plasteel, yeah.
Yeah.
I like the idea, like, they roll around, like, on the planet's surface on, like, almost like airboats. Like, limited propulsion craft. There's, like, these flotillas that will, like
armored plastic float with, like, plasticine armor, but, like, real inflatable kind of craft that they use.
Yeah.
And there's certain areas you can't go because the temperatures are so high they would destroy your boat, essentially.
Ugh, yeah.
You touched on earlier, Walt, just to add another, like, a little bit of, like, uncertainty maybe into this setting about the planet having a stronger gravity. Like, what if there is, like, a gravity well here and it just kind of sucks in trash, like detritus from space? Like a ton. But, like, you might get the odd satellite or, like, just random hunks of metal and crap.
I think we could easily do that if we made the planet just gargantuan. And then we don't even need to have a gravity well. It could just be a Jupiter-size, insane oil planet.
I mean, dwarves, if it was Jupiter-size, the idea that dwarves are moving around in 20G environments is crazy.
Oh, right, because that would be low gravity, wouldn't it?
No, that would be it would be such high gravity that they would turn into puddles on the ground.
Okay. Well, we'll rein it in, obviously. I think the gravity well then would make more sense if there was an anomaly nearby in the star system that brought detritus to Earth, including weaponry previously thought lost.
You could do anything. You could have it around the moon it could be a moon of a gas giant. So the gas giant pulls all of the extra planetary objects toward it, and then they crash onto the planet. If it's all built of oil, it's all made of oil. Oil is not something that is created by a star. So
no, it might be neat if the planet was a mass killing field at some point.
Yeah, like a dumping ground for the dead, or like for like super massive like spacefaring beasts.
Yeah, like a tomb for a star whale society.
Yeah, like an elephant graveyard, but for star whales.
It's just like either like an entire civilization's dumping ground, or it's like a gigantic creature ate a bunch of worlds and then took a gigantic shit. And,
I know
and
which one
it.
Belvin would choose, but he's not here. So I'm going with the dumping ground, I think.
Okay, so the dump ground?
That makes more sense than it's a poop planet.
Well, does it though?
Plus, we don't have to Sea of Time this shit and explain why there's a sea of oil on this planet. We can just say that there is. And kind of work out their culture from there.
Oh yeah, so you were talking about the division earlier of like these people being outcasts, and also wondering if like maybe they wanted to return home. Maybe there's like, and we've got these two cities. Maybe one city wants to return home, and the other one would rather actually stay here because it's very lucrative and like recreate society by terraforming one of the local planets.
I like that. So what are these two city-states called?
Coming up with names while
Eurus?
recording. Eurus.
And Kill City. Yeah.
Karis and Kill City 1.
Yeah, Kill City 1.
Kill
Mega
City
Cities 1 and 2.
Here's the twist. Kill City, they're the good guys.
So they have these prefab walls that they can make in the fabricators very easily. I think refugee ships, because they're dwarves and fabrication's such an important part of their society, I think even like small ships would have fabricators, but they would only be able to fabricate basic things like, say, like, like respirators and things like that. And if you needed something sophisticated crafted, you have to travel to the city.
Yeah, like only the colony ships had the big fabs on them,
which
like,
are constantly running at all times. Essentially, there's like limited, a roar in the city because they're producing so much.
Close the windows.
I think it's cool. The streets could just be like plastic paneling that you kind of laid down.
Yeah,
and it would sink and slurp with every like step you took.
I would hope that they would have set it up on a slightly more stable area.
I mean, it's kind of where the ships landed, right? So one of the cities could be really swampy and stuck in a muck, and there's a lot of city politics around the city sinking, and so they're reticent to accept refugees. And another city could be on really stable ground, but it's frigid out.
Yeah. So the soupy city, like they have an old area that's like slowly giving way because all the activity on there is actually like upsetting the ground and making it warmer, which they thought was the most stable area, like around the ship. That they set it down on the most stable area they could find. So they've had to start like building like platforms on the soup.
And you can't move your ship because no one knows what would happen if you just roared your ship's engine, but probably nothing good would come of it.
Oh God, no.
How do people
eat? They glided in.
How do they eat?
Oh God. Is there any life on this planet?
I think there might be some.
Something probably feeds off all this oil.
Maybe there are star whales that come to still dump bodies there.
Huh.
And if they get low enough in atmosphere, you can send out hunting parties in boats to harpoon them.
On your like little fan boat, like you ready to take down a star whale.
Well, yeah, because they have to. Well, first of all, they're dumping a body on the planet, which is free food, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But second, you can also shoot one of those bastards out of the sky too. That's bringing it.
It's a dangerous line of work.
It is, but that can't be the only source of food. It's some,
You could probably eat the oil. If you could probably do something with it to make it edible.
You could go Snowpiercer and just have them eat vaguely gelatinous blocks of shit.
Yeah, I was going to say like hydroponics, but it doesn't really...
Yeah, I would say like soil would be like the most valuable commodity on this whole planet.
Yeah.
like actually arable soil would be something that maybe rich refugees have, and maybe like some small refugee towns can sustain themselves by agriculture because they knew what they were getting into ahead of time. But the fab cities definitely can't.
Yeah, because the fab cities lacking their own food production provides an incentive for outward settlements.
Yeah, and if you think like if these like whales are coming to drop off their like their waste essentially, not all of it's dead. Like you can still eat some of it, but then some of it is actually probably still alive. There's probably like little exotic organisms that are in there that are extremely hardy.
Yeah, like
Oh, hell
parasites
yeah.
and shit.
And if enough of them got dumped here, then they'd start like
Oh shit,
they would select
parasites.
for things that
Yeah.
could actually live in the oil, and you could probably they would get bigger and bigger. There's probably
So
like,
that's how an ecosystem formed here. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
but oil fish are
Oil crabs.
extremely like they're rare because it's very difficult to live on
Well,
on
It's
the planet,
difficult
and
to
they're
even
very
spot
dangerous.
them. I mean, they've camouflaged to the point, but you can catch oil crabs.
Yeah, you
they're
really
like
can't
the
go beneath the surface because you can't see shit. It's all oil.
Right, right. How do you keep yourself warm? The planet's frigid, right? How do you keep yourself warm without using fire?
Space heaters.
Space heaters don't use fire? I'm not familiar.
No, we're not in space anymore. We're on the planet. You can't use space heaters.
Friction.
Could that
Uh,
could a space heater like device actually I mean, I assume there could be electricity here, right?
yeah,
it's powered
electrical
by the
induced
fabricator
heat.
itself.
I mean, powered by oil.
Mhm.
Like you can have an engine running or a motor.
Yeah.
Which could-
yeah.
Well, not if it's a combustion engine, right?
Well, a combustion engine
Would blow everything
might
up.
be fine. The actual combustion engines are controlled explosions.
What about like solar
You just have to
power?
control the
Like,
hang on.
oxygen around it.
Doesn't
then you're fine.
do oil vapors rise or sink?
Well, it depends on what they're in.
Because there could be certain areas of the atmosphere where it's safer to operate combustion-based equipment.
Well, it's the thing is it's not the oil vapors that's the problem because the whole atmosphere is oil vapors essentially because this is like a primarily oil-based planet.
Right, with trace amounts of other elements, yeah.
The problem is what oxygen does is in an oil environment. And what I think it does actually, it has to float because oxygen is a much smaller molecule than. So the oxygen will just go up into the and it'll go away from you unless you have it contained inside like buildings or it's just recently come out of like bodies.
Mm.
So
Okay.
honestly, as long as you are not running it, as long as you're not running an engine or a generator in an enclosed space, you're fine.
Okay.
The problem is though, you have to run it in an enclosed space.
Could you do like a space elevator? Like that it's these stations are in atmosphere and they're like sending energy or heat down through contained means. Like
That might be kind of cool. Like if let's say there are artificial intelligence operated space stations that still operating on like protocol deliver packets of energy essentially to the surface that they collect from like solar and other means. You could solar power a lot of shit here actually.
Oh yeah, they could have like solar satellites that could act as weapons.
Right, that are closer to the
just heat
sun and
beams.
can transmit shit back.
Because the
So-
problem with a space elevator would be that would require them to have built it on the planet. And
Right,
as soon as
and
they can build a
that's
space
kind of like-
elevator,
yeah.
that means they can leave. So I think that's their goal,
Right,
is building a space elevator. Because it's the only way to get out of the atmosphere without combustion for them.
it's
They definitely
the mother
started
load.
out. Yeah, they definitely started out wanting to explore other planets besides this one. But now there's like a remain kind of faction in society, and there's a leave faction in society.
Oh
you
man,
know?
like they set out to explore in exile and they got trapped on another planet. Sucks to be a space dwarf.
Dude, if only they were taller, they could get on that space elevator. Get back up.
You gotta get those squats in.
The damn shame.
It is a
Do
goddamn
100
shame,
every
man.
day.
I think that, like, let's talk about kind of what life is like either in a fab city or kind of, let's describe like some factions of society, but let's drill a little deeper here and figure out like what it's actually like for them.
I don't know how much time we got.
We got some time.
Okay.
Okay.
Do just a couple minutes. All right, so I think probably for the fab cities, right? The fabricators are running constantly, but you can't do everything. Like some things there has to be manufacturing.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that there's probably a lot of the fab city is devoted to heavy manufacturing of some kind.
Yeah, or turning plastic, the fabricator can print out plastic materials, essentially, that humans can then assemble.
Dwarves, but yes.
Thank you. Forgive me, dwarf Allah. But if you even want to, like, get something crafted at the fabricator, you have to bring a shit ton of oil and also, like, whatever currency they have. And there will be powerful guilds that are knowledgeable in the operation of the ancient machine and can make it for you.
So there's probably a group of like probably a profession that's out there like slushing, trying to find a good word for it.
Oh, like
that's just like getting the really low quality oil that's just like hanging around, and they're bringing that in and they're like doing some manual process to refine it. Because like they don't have like a refinery.
Backyard moonshine distillery, but for oil.
Yeah, I'm picturing like you have like a truck, basically like a fan truck that you're just scooping up like a load of oil to haul back and refine so you can sell it down at the firm.
And
the
then
that's
factory
dangerous because they could be pumping hydrogen and oxygen out of it. Like it's probably a risk, but they need the refined oil and someone's got to do it.
And like craftsmanship with fab plates, we'll call it, like dwarf craftsmanship using fab plates, like manual shit, is, we'll say, like less high quality than something that's entirely fabricated, but much less expensive.
I mean, listen.
And so
all
rich
dwarf
people,
craftsmanship is of the highest quality. Let's get that straight right now.
It menaces with spikes of orange plastic.
They're just doing the best of what they got.
Oh man, I also like this dynamic too, because instead of dwarves wanting to go deep within the earth, these dwarves want to reach the skies and escape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they want to reach the skies and escape and get to like a traditional soil.
Yeah, they thought it would be more like
rock.
Pre-Columbian America and not like Pluto that's on fire. There would be like just oceans of things that are on fire based off random happenstances that have to get put out essentially by like windstorms.
Ugh.
And if there's a solar flare, you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah, they have like a whole protocol for a solar flare that's never happened, but dude, I think this is actually a very beautiful world that we've created.
Yeah, I like this one. This is fun.
This is a nice one. If you like this episode, you can subscribe to us on the podcasting service of your choice. Except for a lot of them, actually. So don't hold us to that. New episodes come out every Saturday. Go ahead and write us a 5-star review on iTunes. That really helps us out, even if you are lying about how good or bad we actually are. Our art is courtesy of the amazing Sheltor at Jovial Paradox on Twitter. You can tweet at us too at LoreLads, or send us hate mail at 30minuteworlds@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and as always, happy world building.